Hello and welcome to BT Media's In Conversation With series. Today I'm delighted to welcome Jason Lunn, who is the venue director of East of England Arena and Event Centre and a recent board member of the Association of Event Venues. Good afternoon, Jason.
Good afternoon, Dan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And I know you're in Peterborough. I'm going to come on and talk about how Peterborough is at the moment. But what I want to start with, just for our viewers who maybe aren't aware, Jason, and we were just talking about this before, can you sort of bring your career to life? Because I know it's interesting that you've been both organizer and now obviously venue side. So it'd be interesting to sort of take it to present day.
Yes, no problem. I haven't always had a grey beard. That's true. I've been around for a while. I'm a trained graphic designer. So, 1992, I qualified as a graphic designer, right just in time for a recession. Answered a job, and I was told it was moving paper around an office. It's actually putting posters up for a local show organizer in Lincolnshire. And that was my first job, going around shops with blue tack and a roll of posters. And saying, would you mind having a poster up for a show? And that was live promotions. I worked my way up to an event manager with them over about 8 or 10 years. Left for a while, did some marketing with EMA, as they were, which is now Bar Media. Got bored with that because marketing doesn't give me the same kind of buzz. Went back to live for another 8 years, became an event director and took over some folios. Went out to South Africa for a bit, did some good food and wine shows. Didn't really get on with the boss, so I came home, set up on my own, had some of my own shows for a while, then did the Olympic Games and a few other things.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I wrote a spec for an event once called the Wheels Festival at Bournemouth, which was great. And I know some big companies were doing it, but I won it just because I think I was the only one that didn't cut and paste. I wrote it all. And they liked it and they asked me to do that. So I did that, did quite a lot of consulting around various venues, did the games, as did many people, whilst keeping my business going somehow. And then after that, I got asked, I was a consultant here at the East of England, which was the showground at the time, and came in here after the games, and then they asked me to stay on as a member of staff instead of a consultant from November 14. So I've been here for 6 years and an employee.
Right, there you go.
They asked me to take it over in 16.
Okay. And it's obviously been in the industry a while. What drives your passion for events?
I think the UK is brilliant at it. I think we do have a world-beating industry. Sometimes I wish we were allowed to do our jobs a bit better than the government will allow us sometimes. But we're really good at what we do. And certainly going out, if you go out of the country and you do the work, people, if you're from England, we're ahead. So people listen to us, you know, and they're interested in the ideas. Particularly that was what I found in South Africa, and to the States to a certain degree. So I'm passionate about doing things better, putting on the best event possible. I'm afraid I'm also passionate about making money, so it has to be right.
Okay.
I don't. Well, when you've worked for yourself and you're paying your own bills, you don't want to be a busy fool. You know, when I first set out, my dad said, "Say yes to everything." And after about a year or so, he said, and then you start learning when to say no.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going through that at the moment.
So I said yes to everything, and I was a busy bugger for a while. But if we can do it well, let's do it. If we can't do it well, let's not bother. You know, and that's where I come from. You know, do it right, do it well, do it once. And then if you've done it well, you might get an event that'll gain some traction and keep going. You know, when I've moved into the venue side, you know, you start seeing people doing, well, we can do a repair that'll last for X. What? No, do a repair once, fix it once. You know, do it right. And that's the kind of thing that I come from as well. You know, have a budget to repaint every 6 months or 3 months or whatever. And I think when you come from an organizer background, I don't wish to decry venue colleagues, but we're a bit quicker at wanting to get things done. Sometimes I have to slow myself down, but we're used to doing an event on this day, then breaking it down and doing an event this day. And I kind of get used to that here. So up until the pandemic, we were busier than the venue's ever been before. So looking out and seeing a tragic empty showground for me, and an event centre, it is soul destroying.
Yeah, of course.
But as I said to you, when we were talking before this, I'm always about what tell me what I can do. I know what I can't do. I've read the list. Just tell me what I can do, or otherwise I'm going to write you a list and go through it with you, and you'll have to tell me to stop.
Thank you. Appreciate that intro.
I suppose as well, I was 37 when I did my master's degree because I
saw that. You know what? Well, I'm honest. I looked at LinkedIn. I saw that, so I was like, I know he's not 15 or something.
No, I'm 48.
So I don't know if it's the wrong way, but actually it's quite interesting because I actually haven't spoken to someone that's done a professional qualification in it. How come you decided to do that at that time?
I'll tell you exactly what I was doing. I was doing an event called Bromley Pageant, and every event manager at the time must have had this. You're sitting there waiting for stuff to be delivered or stuff to be collected, and it's that wasted time. And I must have spent a third of my life waiting. And so I thought, I can do something with this time. What can I do? And it was in the early stages of having, the internet. Yeah. And I thought, let's get qualified in the industry you've been bumbling around in for 10, 15 years at that point. And so that's where it came from. And I really enjoyed it. I did it at Birmingham City University. I had a great tutor who let me on the course. Yeah. She wondered why at the time. But actually, I got so much out of it. And at the end of it, everybody I met a great bunch of people, some people already in the industry doing it. But it's a great reset for you if you're not sure you know what you're doing. And it definitely, I didn't come out of it with just a rubber stamp of everything I was doing was perfect. I came out of it with actually, here are some great, it set me off in a slightly different direction. And I certainly used that MA to bounce around a bit more because I chose more of the projects and things I wanted to do rather than waiting to get a job that would let me do them. Yeah,
it's interesting because at this time as well, many people are getting extra qualifications, a lot within the virtual space, with the likes of the Virtual Events Institute. Yeah. And I see on LinkedIn, I'm now certified at this, that, and the other. And I think you're right. You're never too old to learn new things, right?
No, when the Licensing Act came in, I did the alcohol license because I didn't have a clue about it. I've got an SIA license. We have CCTV, so I did that just so I can look and use the cameras properly and extract stuff for evidence if I need to. I can even drive a forklift, mainly because somebody told me I was responsible for them operating on site. I said, well, I don't know anything about them. I just know they're big and they lift stuff. Yeah. So I remember doing that about 10 or 12 years ago. And that's great as an event manager because you can hire yourself out and you're a security guard, a forklift driver, and obviously the event manager. So they come and expecting to meet 3 people, and you're just there going, yes, mate, I'm doing the setup on my own. Yeah. A man of many talents. Tell you what, you can't charge 3 times, sadly, but at least you can win the work.
Pandemic hits. We want to talk about the future, but just a couple of minutes. Obviously, your venue became a big testing site, right? Not overnight, maybe overnight. I don't know exactly when it started, but talk to me about how that came about and generally your relationship with the local authorities, both then and now.
Well, I'll tell you, I said, yes, we get to March and we're just finishing some conferencing, and we actually had a conference in at the time. It finished and we pretty much went into lockdown. And obviously we all know it got worse and worse. Yeah. And then you're having conversations with the NHS. And this was before we're talking about reopening. Yeah. And so are we going to be a hospital? Are we going to be a test centre? Are we going to be a morgue? All of these things, because we're just a big space. Mad, yeah. And in the end, we had several, visits about various things. And the test centre sort of came about just prior to when Peterborough had an issue. So they came here and they took over half of our car park, and it works very well. They're on site today. And if you remember, about June, July, Peterborough had actually a peak, an early peak, and the local authority got it under control. And I can only think that the testing was part of it. They rolled it out, small sort of ones around the city, but they had this big main one. We've got 7 lanes of testing. And that's kind of brought the numbers down. And, I have contacts with the chief executive council and various people in various departments. We always have, because that's what you do as the venue director. You're making these contacts, local safety advisory group officer, traffic officers, people like that you need to make events happen. And from that, I was getting to the point where, we were talking about the AEV about reopening and getting the businesses reopening. And so I'm talking to the local authority as we're developing the paperwork. I didn't share it with them, but I'm telling them what's going on, because they didn't know what rules we'd be opening under. So I was able to tell them, well, it's going to look like this. So actually then they're coming to me saying, have you got any more information? So I'm feeding this as we go. And from the 1st of July, we brought back a member of staff as our COVID officer. In fact, it was the 1st of June, I probably. And I don't know who else would have done it at the same time. I know there is the COVID officer, but we went straight for that. I'm talking to the Chief Executive Council, a lady called Gillian Beasley, who is really switched on. And also we've got a really supportive MP, Charlotte Schwarzer. So we were always trying to be, I wasn't looking nationally at being one of the first to do it. I just wanted to be open. You suddenly realise you are the first to be open, which was the motorhome show towards the end of July. Proper show. We all saw some such and such as opened this little showground in X, Y, and Z Fordshire, without any permissions, and nobody told them off. Well, I can't do that. We're a proper business. We're a proper event centre. I've got an arena building. I'm licensed to the hilt. I'm insured to the hilt. I could do it properly. And so I think what I'm aware of, I think we ran the first sort of proper event, which was a motorhome event. And it was for a couple of reasons. Number one, I can't say we made that much money, but God, we needed to do something. The organiser needed to do it because they needed to save their exhibitors. A lot of them are small to medium-sized businesses. They needed orders. And subsequently, what they found is they couldn't meet the amount of orders they want because people aren't there building the next set built, but they've got sale. So that kind of secured that. And it wasn't the biggest event. We had about, I don't know, probably about 3,000 people a day on site for about 3 or 4 days. So it's small. Then we did a medium-sized event, which was Truck Fest. That had 6,000 people a day. And so we were going great guns, and we were all working towards October when we got smacked in the face by Boris. You know, I know he had his reasons, but you know, it doesn't help but hurt. But actually, we got one of the things that we'd said at the start was our safety advisory group wasn't working, and I know this model has happened before in other areas where you know, it's kind of been an inherited role as people have left, and then they've not got the experience, and that's not their fault. But the person who'd been doing it for years has left, and we really needed. Forget about a SAG. You needed a public health SAG. If they said yes, it was yes all the way down. If they said no, it's no all the way down. And within an hour or so of me complaining to the council about this, I was talking to the director of the local rep for public health, and that person has become an inherent part of our planning process. He's very switched on, doesn't know anything about events. All he knows is public health. So he looks at everything you give him with regard to public health, and we get that. So we explain to him how something will work from a public health perspective. Once he's had his say on the Zoom calls, it's down to everybody else. And so I think we've got a lot more through because everybody is willing to listen to us and understands, and we kept them up to date with the paperwork. And that really became the case when we had the October issue, because we got antiques in and they were inside and outside, and it was about 4 or 5 days before. And actually what we realised was the antiques event was a market. So we looked at the guidance for markets, and an indoor market could still open. We went to public health and said, would this guidance work? They said, we can't stop you doing that. That looks perfectly suitable. I said, well, fine. Well, we'll use this as our guide. We'll open as a market, which was essentially the same event, but we'll run under the all secure guidance, which, if you know about the AEV document, is a lot tighter. And actually public health were happy. Everybody was happy with that. So they knew, although we were running under what I would say was woeful guidance for public health with indoor markets, we didn't run with that guidance. We ran with the ruling that's what the event was, but we ran it as an all secure exhibition.
So it's interesting. So
that's worked for us.
Yeah. So you had good relationships with the local authorities because you probably had good relationships with them before,
and
right?
the local public health reps.
Yeah,
because they report up the chain, and you need them on your side before they turn around to report to their bosses.
But yeah, obviously national government, and not just your venue, but with the AEV and AEO and Assor, obviously not so much. The recent announcements, and I know Peterborough's in tier 2.
With 2, yeah. So I guess it's positive news, clearly. I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. it's probably not that different to what we've been talking about. 1,000 inside, 2,000 outside, 2,000 inside, 4,000 outside. I'd say we probably ended up with very, very similar figures throughout the summer, because we were working out the attendance levels and agreeing that with public health and making sure that that was in place. So it wasn't a free for all over the summer, even though we've got outside space.
Yeah.
We're talking about various things at the moment. The main issue, I think, speaking as an organizer, we've just signed up an event from the NEC that would not normally consider coming to the east of England. He's going to change his event once and come here so he can run his event.
Can you tell us what event it is or not?
Yeah, it's the British Shooting Show.
Okay.
It's already been released.
Yeah.
Now, it needs way more halls than we've got normally.
Yeah.
So for 1 year, to keep the event alive and keep it going for 1 year, he's going to run it with us. And I'm honoured and I'm very thankful to that show team to want to bring the event here. I know, and we've all agreed, it's going back to the NEC. Sure. Yeah. I hope the NEC look at that and say, actually, we're pleased he's going to run it. It means the event will still continue and we'll get that business back in 22 with our blessing.
Yeah.
And from our point of view, if there are other people out there, that's our scope for early 21 is, if your show's in doubt, but you need to run something and you want some definite answers, if you come to us, we can ring the local authority and ask them what they think, and they'll let us know.
So I was going to ask you, in terms of your relationship with other venues, so it seems like it's positive. I don't know if that's the same across the board, but you've given me an example. What about with organisers? So not, as you said, you would have had lots of events scheduled. They would have had to cancel. There's definitely tension commercially. How have you worked that out?
Well, it's not just event organisers. We've had, because of the relationship that we've got, and we sit with the AV, and I talk to our colleagues on the AV, because whatever we do, I hope that we'll let them know, and then they can try that in their areas if they're not doing something already. And we've had conversations with councils for other venues in other areas of the country, and they've rung us and asked us what we're doing, how we're able to say yes, how the council is able to say yes to it, so that they can then go to the venue in their area that wants to open and say, do it like this. And we might also be talking to the venue so that they can go at it. So we're trying to help colleagues around the country take the model we've got and repeat it.
Right.
And I think for Q1, that's what they'll need to do. Hopefully for Q2, it'll open.
Yeah. So you've been leaders in that regard, which is great.
Yeah. But with regards to organisers, if you want to run a show right now, you can't be venue and organiser. It cannot be. You've got to be one force. And if you're being told off, you both stood there together taking it. And if you're getting any glory, you also get that together, because you can't be a separate team. We're working so closely with our organisers, and there's a certain amount of financial risk, but we don't do that and work that closely and put up to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Well, we won't have anything. So that's what we've tried to do, and we're with them all the way. We're holding hands, and I know a lot of venues don't like doing that. They look at it, so that's the organiser's problem. That's the organiser's problem. Mm-hmm. We haven't run with that, because that doesn't work. Yeah. Well, it doesn't work now. I don't believe it ever really worked. So we were always a little bit more like that, because I'm an organiser. But actually right now, if you want to run an event, if they can get a slip of paper between you and the organiser, you're going to have issues.
Yeah.
And that means sharing the good and the bad news.
No, absolutely. But I think collaboration at this time, and probably going forward, and hopefully maybe this is one positive thing that's come out of it,
I think so.
Will be more receptive to doing that. Lots of organisers, depending on the show, obviously, or the event, are having to build in virtual hybrid models, all sorts of stuff. What's your view, and what have you done as a venue to sort of the fusion of?
I hate virtual. Sorry, I just hate it, and yet. We've done some virtual meetings, and we just signed up with a great company. Then they said to me as well, we don't like virtual, but we've got some virtual stuff. We can do some virtual meetings. We can make some money and provide a better service than somebody just setting up a projector and hoping for the best while shouting at a laptop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, if you're going to do one of these meetings, you need a PA system that goes through Zoom and all these kind of things, rather than trying to hear the speaker of a laptop and a projector in front of 30 people.
Yeah.
So at the moment, we've just done a deal with a virtual company, and they're set up in our Peterborough suite, and I hope for maybe 10 or 15 meetings, and we'll get a bit of money that way, and the people that come will get a great service. But I can't wait for it to not be there and we're virtual again. I'm not going to pay the bills of this place running a website, and I don't run a website. I run a brick and mortar build business, and I want people in it, and I want people spending money and buying beer and buying burgers and going around the show and looking at trade stands and socializing and networking. That's
you have
what
the facilities to offer.
But we have the facilities, yes, and it's here, and I understand it has its place, but God, I won't miss it. I appreciate it. It'll probably come back as a part of, if you can't make a meeting. But please, people, don't think it'll replace events. If we go that way, that way lies 1984 and Doomsday, which sometimes I think we're in. God, no.
So talk to me about instilling confidence in people to attend events. So it's one thing the government saying, green light, but it's another thing convincing people to go, because
I think Project Confidence, which the AEB and everyone is doing, it's difficult. We've got a track record. So we've had some events, people know those events and people coming. There's a certain amount of being honest with people. One of our events this year could not, although it ran, it didn't run as well as everyone else, but they needed to charge the same ticket. So they were honest with people, said, please come and support us. Please come to the event this year. And if you come to the event this year, your tickets next year will be half price.
Yeah.
And it was an event that people tend to come to each year. And it's that kind of thanks. Please support us in the bad year so that we're here in the good, so that you can come here. Yeah. It's about giving people, if they're not going to get the same experience, warning them about it, and giving them something to look forward to, and maybe some sort of compensation afterwards or a thank you. Yeah. And being willing to give people a refund if your event doesn't go ahead, and you're clear about that and upfront about it.
Yeah.
Right now, if I was to book a concert ticket, I would want to know I could get my money back. So I'd only be buying it from the people I trust, your TMs and ticket factories and all those kind of things. So you've got to be upfront. You've got to tell people what's going on. You've got to tell people what the show is going to be like. But you also, one thing I would say is, if you've got the right thing that people want to go to, that they are desperate to go out. So
I think that's a very good point. I think content is ever more going to be key, right? So event organisers, whether it's a live performance or a trade show, are going to have to, and this is only a good thing, work even harder to produce something that people want to go to. So talk to me. So you announced that Brian Cox you've got an event with him. And October, is it next year?
24th of October. And somebody said to me on a radio interview, well, what do you think will be in by then? I said, I can guarantee you there'll be no social distancing by that point, because we'll have the vaccine.
Yeah. So how have ticket sales been, out of interest?
Good.
Yeah.
We're expecting sometime after April for normality. So I think April, May, June might be challenging, but I would think by July, August, September, you should have enough in the population. And I think most people are assuming that to a certain degree. I can see masks staying on. I can see us.
About what?
Yeah, I can see people still sat, but you sat in the rows as you would normally be.
Yeah.
But you've got a mask on. I can see that. I'm sure that's what they do in Asian countries still now. People are used to it.
Testing on it.
Pardon?
What about testing on entry? Do you think that's still going to be?
It depends where the solution is either going to be the vaccine, or going to be the testing, or going to be both.
Yeah.
But I can't see by this point next year, you're not sat next to somebody. Yeah. I can see that there's still mitigations in place.
Yeah.
But, it's how you deal with people. And the one thing I have seen is that people have taken more time to talk to stewards and listen to stewards. And if you interact with them in the right way, we had a great one where we had all of these really, really, really stern notices: do this, do that, put your mask on, and people did it, but I would say you were probably 85% compliant-ish.
Yeah.
And then I found a really funny one, which was based on the Queen's song. I don't know whether you've seen it. Yeah, mask on your face, no mask on your face, big disgrace, spreading your germs all over the place. It's got a picture of Freddie like that. So I caught it. I printed off a load of A0s and A2s, put them around the site. I would say we had 100%. You know, apart from the odd person with I can't wear one because. And that had so something like that where you can interact with people on a level that they're quite happy to.
Yeah.
You know, do it in a friendly way, something that pokes a bit of fun at the bug, because God, we've got to be able to laugh at it.
Yeah.
I think it's the comms that are the most important thing.
Yeah. But in summary, you're confident about the future.
I am confident, and I can't wait for it. We were pushing as the AEV. We were talking about only about a few days before. Considering we'd had all those conversations with government, you may have spoken to people on the AO and AEV about that, but you're talking to government so much and DCMS about what's going to happen, and they're giving you feedback, but nothing's happening, or suddenly you find the rug's pulled from under you.
Yeah.
So, but we were talking about the graduated tier opening. That was our suggestion back to DCMS as the AEV, and you're expecting maybe some feedback. I didn't get any feedback. Boris just announced it, so they must like it, they must trust it. Yeah. But the one thing I would say is, we've had upwards of 20,000 people on site, not 800,000, but 20,000, and no track and trace issues. And we've run track and trace. We've had lots of smaller pop-up things. So with that in mind, you can't blame events. And I know people will go back to Cheltenham, but actually Cheltenham ran under the rules the government told them to run under.
Yeah.
I would have made the same decisions. I'm sure most people would. Well, I can open, I just need to do this. Now we know what it is and that it is a real problem because people are actually showing all the information. We've designed the visitor experience around that.
Yeah.
We've designed the event around that. And as such, when people come, it's different, but most people are expecting it to be different.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that events are the risk, not when they're done properly. I personally don't. I feel just as quite comfortable in a restaurant or a bar with those mitigations.
Yeah.
So we all wonder why you've got this blanket approach that shuts things down. That I would argue I'd probably be safer in a bar right now than I'd be in somebody's home.
It's going back to that blunt instrument thing that we spoke about earlier. Just we spoke about obviously your venue is sort of entrenched into the community, and I know there's a few initiatives that you're involved with personally and as a venue. I know that it was the agricultural society that you're involved with as well. Was that right?
Yeah, well, they're our owners. So essentially, we're a not-for-profit.
Yeah.
And we're a community venue as much as anything else. So if we're not doing Brian Cox and those kind of things, we have education events here.
Yeah.
We used to have a big county show, but those are now, they're not cost-effective.
Yeah.
But they do lots of stuff for the farming and agricultural networks around here, and lots of children's education.
Yeah.
Which is great because usually in July the site's full of kids running around. Yeah. We'll have an event with 5,000 kids, and as jaded as I am as a father of three, actually it cheers you up. So to hear that noise, so those are the things that I really enjoy. And then we've also recently had action on domestic abuse in the area, and we signed up for that, the White Ribbon thing. And as I said, you've got two daughters, I've got two daughters, and you think about them first, really. And I want them to grow up in a way that they would want to see themselves grow up, if they were to choose what kind of person they would be. So I'm trying to give them the best support as I can.
Just finishing up, just 2 or 3 questions. What have you learned as an individual during this period that maybe you didn't know before or didn't think would, you'd have to experience?
I'm better at arguing than I thought I was. I've always been quite tenacious. You don't start putting posters up in blue tack and end up being venue director of a venue without being a bit tenacious. But we've had to kick the doors open and not take no for an answer. Yeah. And that's one of the things. I come from I don't wish to decry my background, but I come from probably a slightly rougher hue than the Clarions of this world. We're used to a bit of rough and tumble. Yeah. When you're in that small to medium sized market. And I quite enjoyed that. So I'm quite happy to get stuck in and try and push things forward. My media training must have kicked in loads over the last couple of months because I've had that many interviews and things. But any opportunity to shout for our industry right now. What I have learned as well is how it's reminded me how passionate I am for our industry. Whether you're on the venue side, the supplier side, or the organizer side, it's a brilliant industry, and I don't want to see it go. I've been reminded how valuable my partners and suppliers are.
Yeah.
I've learned just how good the people that I know I've chosen to work with over the years are. And I rank, people like Pierce Hire and Abbott's Events, our caterers, Circle, even our guys that do our site electrics. We got just signed up with 360 as well for all of our shell scheme. These good people turn up when when things are bad, they'll still turn up. Yep. and they've got your back. I remember doing the Light the Building in Red and Light the Building in Blue, and I'm talking to Sean from Pierce, Sean Pierce. And we both said, let's do it. Let's just light the building up. I'll put the building in it. I'll even help put the cables out if you want. Yeah.
So
that's the kind of, it's reminded you how special
yeah.
our industry is and how we need to fight for it. Because I also learned that government doesn't have a clue. No. We've never been the problem child. We're not aviation. We're not automotive manufacturers. Yeah. We've just got on with it, and they've thrown us stuff and we've got on with it, and we've never asked for handouts, have we?
Yeah.
But right now, they didn't really realise that we contribute nearly the same as the aviation industry.
So hopefully now going forward, at least
that's what I hope. Lobbying is the big word for us in the future. Yeah. It's making sure that we continue to be heard after this. Because unless it's the Olympic Games, they don't understand.
Yeah. And what event are you most looking forward to, Jason, that you haven't managed to go to?
What, here or anywhere?
No, like in your personal life, whatever, something you haven't managed to be able to do, but
I'll tell you,
forward to doing.
I did achieve an ambition before lockdown. In that last September, I went to the Crossroads Guitar Festival at Dallas, which had been on my list, and I never thought Eric Clapton would do another one. Yeah. Just bought the video, the DVD video, DVD. And the next one on my bucket list is to go to Pebble Beach. So that for me is what I'd like to do. And as for here, I actually like wandering around the antiques fair, especially with my youngest daughter. We usually give her £1. She thinks she can buy an entire table of stuff, and she can actually only buy a key ring or something like that. But those are the really good days.
Yeah.
And when it's sunny and when all the kids on the Kids Country event are around here, they have about, 5,000 kids from schools around the area, even as far as London. And they're all running around causing absolute chaos. Those are my favourite. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll get back there soon. And final question, which I ask my guests, hopefully you'll be happy to answer. If you're on a desert island and you have to pick 2 or 3 people from within the industry that you've worked with, who would you pick and why?
Oh, my God. Trevor Foley, because I like to listen.
Yeah.
I won't be able to talk, just listen. Let me think, who else? A friend of mine called Mick Limming, because he's ex-Navy and could, I'm sure, make up hammocks and a building.
Yeah, practical.
Brilliant event logistics. Just wouldn't. Who else would I have? Probably Sean Pierce as well. I'm sure he'd be figuring out how to get solar power out of something and make stuff work, especially if there was an old boat.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
Probably that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So Jason Lunn from East of England Arena and Event Centre. It's been a pleasure. We wish you every success in the future. I think your enthusiasm for the sector shines through. So I've got no doubt that you're going to be back to doing what you do best sooner rather than later. So thank you.